On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, Joel Lorenzi joins us to discuss the NBA Cup, Thunder versus Mavericks. What does it all mean?
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, media member, and beat writer for Thunder on SI, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LO Thunderpod. Check us out on Blue Sky, Rylan Stiles and Joel Lorenzi over there. Joel Lorenzi, beat writer of the Oklahoman, joins us today at JX Lorenzi on Twitter. And of course, all of his fine writing work, however long it may be, at the Oklahoman. Joel, how you feeling, man?
You're plugging Blue Sky now? That's how long it's been since I've been on a pod. You plugging Blue Sky now. That's hilarious. Shout out Blue Sky though, and shout out the pod, man. Big pod. It's been a minute, huh?
Oh yeah, it's been a long minute since you got too big time for me. You know, you had all these doors open and then our door closed here at Locked On Thunder. But I'm glad that you're back. I'm glad that you're skeeting on Blue Sky with your massive following over there, almost doubling up your Twitter following already on Blue Sky.
Dude.
But Joel,
this guy's greatest accomplishment is his Twitter followers, by the way. That's why he's talking.
That's not me. That's somebody else. But Joel, we do have a basketball game on Tuesday night between the Dallas Mavericks and the Oklahoma City Thunder in the NBA Cup. First and foremost, Joel, what does this game even mean? Like, are we really going to be leaving this game with any, or should we be leaving this games with any like grand takeaways?
I think, well, on a serious note, I think Dallas versus Thunder is always a notable data point. No matter, like, even because we saw different versions of Dallas almost in every game they played against the Thunder last year. I mean, there was a game where it was just Kyrie leading the offense. There was a game where it was just Luka, I believe, leading the offense. You had your post All-Star break when that team became a different team. You had your pre-All-Star break. And so you had different versions. And the data points now are like, you know, you had the Kyrie game earlier this year, I mean, less than a month ago. Then you have now Luka playing tomorrow and some other guys missing, some notable guys, not Luka or Kyrie, but some notable guys. So it's always an important data point, especially since, I mean, the Thunder didn't go out and build it somewhere around, you know, being a team that could beat Dallas, but it wanted to get better. And that was from what it saw in that Dallas series. So it's always important when they see them, I think, to know what they're up against. And then I suppose this is like a heightened scenario right now, right? Because the cup is the big cup, and Mark is putting extra emphasis on the word cup. He's enunciating the P cup.
Cup I wore in high school, yeah.
And we want to see Mark in Vegas, which might be his dystopia, it might not be, but we would like to see some Vegas ball, right? That's heightened basketball, I think, as much as you can be in the regular season. So it means something, I think.
Yeah, I think it means something. I just think it's two different things that it means and doesn't mean. Number one, I think that people are going to rush to, let's say the Thunder lose this game. I think that they're going to rush to panic and just say, well, the Thunder can never beat the Mavericks. But in reality, we knew this iteration of the Thunder were going to have an uphill battle against Dallas. Whenever you only have one big man compared to the Mavericks rotation in the front court, you're going to have an up-court battle, and that's what they face in this game. Hartenstein and Caruso haven't played against Dallas yet, but the maximized version of Hartenstein specifically in this matchup is with having Chet Holmgren. Otherwise, you're just swapping out Holmgren for Hartenstein. You have the same issues during the rotation of this game where you will have to play some minutes without Hartenstein on the floor, without a big man on the floor, which is not conducive to winning if you're Oklahoma City for the sake of this matchup. So if the Thunder do lose this game, I don't think it's an indication of who's the better team necessarily. We just won't have that data point until you see these teams fully healthy. And the Mavericks are so good that perhaps fully healthy, not much changes, but certainly you'll see the Thunder change a lot whenever they have two bigs that they can actually deploy. And so for that same point, I don't think that a Thunder win changes anything. I think that the Mavericks would still pose the biggest threat to Oklahoma City in the West, the Mavericks would still be the team that you wouldn't want to see in a playoff series. Anytime you have a team that has Kyrie and Luka at the top, you're not going to want to face them in a 7-game format. So I just think that this game individually, in terms of the matchup, it doesn't mean as much as like people want it to mean. Like people want to come away from Tuesday night with these sweeping allegations of like, oh, so-and-so's a fraud. This team can't play. They can't match up. When in reality, we just won't get that definitive answer until we see a Thunder team that has 2 bigs to match OKC, to match Dallas.
Yeah, then I don't know if the season series would even give you a good idea. I mean, we saw post-break last year, the Mavs handed the Thunder the worst loss of the season. What was it, 35 points? And I
Dallas.
That second round was more competitive than a game like that let on, which was like their most recent data point, because I think the game they played at the end of the season was like last week of the season. Might have even been the last game. Like they're playing two-way guys and stuff like that. So that data point doesn't matter. So that was the most recent data point they had going into the playoffs. And the series is more competitive than that. So people really shouldn't take a ton from these games, especially now. You're looking at, tomorrow PJ being out. That's significant. I know people like to troll and he's like a Thunder killer or whatever. But like that's real data you're missing if he's not playing. Same as Chet. Like Chet obviously is not playing. So it's a tough lens to view those games through. But I think the way people should be viewing these games and these regular season games, I think it's fine to think, like if the Thunder, let's say they win, I think it's fine to think, that the Thunder, even incomplete, are a good team among the better teams in the West, which is probably objectively true. I mean, they gave the Mavs sans Luka a go down their last possession a few weeks back, and that was when they didn't have any center. So I think it's fine to think this team is competitive and can compete with any team, but I wouldn't take any real takeaways, kind of like you said.
Would you say that the NBA Cup brings out the best in these teams? I mean, you've been on road environments during the Cup. Is it better basketball?
I think teams still play their same style. It's interesting because I don't think it feels. I don't have data to prove this, but it feels like in the playoffs, because the game is slower, because games are grinded down, because you're so well schemed for, the games are generally closer, the possessions way more. I don't know that you have that same effect in the Cup, but I do think people seem to feel like these games are bound to be closer. At least the game is harder to get in a league of runs where a team could go up 30 and still come back. Like I think these games are harder to run away with. At least it feels like so far. But it's not I don't know that I'd say it's like it mirrors like a playoff environment. But I think you get to like I think this atmosphere might be even more competitive than like the Vegas, because I know people like I know the league wants the Vegas thing to be its own thing, and that's when this thing is really supposed to be amplified and serve as this the heightened tensions and stuff like that of an in-season tournament. But that qualifying game in market before you go to Vegas, where the fans are actually there, I think that might mean more. Now, whatever you think that means relative to the regular season is a whole different story because it's not the playoffs. But it's possibly the closest thing to end market game to qualify.
Yeah, I think that these games will mean more atmospheric-wise because it's just too hard. Like take Middle America Joe, for example, in Oklahoma right now, doesn't know for a fact the Thunder will be in Vegas on Saturday playing a game. So the earliest that they'd be able to book that trip would be Wednesday. It's just a lot to ask of fans of flyover states and fans away from Vegas to go out to Vegas and support the team. I think the NBA got extremely lucky last year that one of the 4 teams was the Lakers, which is just a short drive over, from their home market, and they have fans all over the world, but to Vegas. I don't think that they're going to get that lucky this year, where you're going to see the atmosphere take a significant drop off compared to Tuesday night in the Paycom Center, which, because of the history of these two teams, could be a playoff level crowd of like these two fan bases do not like each other. Thunder fans, of course, were begging for a game 7. It didn't happen. Now here's an elimination game against Dallas here on Tuesday night. Coming up, Who has the edge in this game, the Mavericks or the Thunder? But first, I want to say right now, our good friends over at FanDuel, go check out FanDuel today because FanDuel is awesome. You can go and tackle the NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, NBA, everywhere else, all in one place at FanDuel.com. Go check it out today, FanDuel.com. Place a $5 bet. Your first $5 bet gets you $150 in bonus bets if you win. Joel, FanDuel has the Thunder as 4.5-point favorites in this game. Where does your money lean?
I take Thunder. I put money on there if I was a gambling man, even though I'm not.
Not a gambling man, but you heard it here first to go check out FanDuel.com. Joel, you've kind of buried the lead a little bit, but you are taking the Thunder minus 4.5, which means you are going to pick the Thunder to win. What advantages do you see for Oklahoma City in this game?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I know we like these fan bases troll and Mavs fans are geeked that PJ is a Thunder killer and Thunder fans like shriek at the mere idea that he'll be available. But like he is on an injury report right now. He is questionable with illness. I don't know that that's enough to keep him out of tomorrow's game. Same thing with Najee. But if it does, if this is something lingering, I think that matters. Again, this game is so these teams when they link up is so intense that I don't know that that'll be enough to keep him out. But let's say let's be hypothetical here. Let's say he does miss the game. That's a guy that for against a Thunder defense that has thrived on long closeouts, pressuring the ball, stuff like that. This is a big wing who can attack closeouts, rebound away from Derek Lively or Gafford. When Luka's on the floor, he's getting open shots. That's a fact. I mean, all these guys are getting open shots, but PJ especially, people remember what he did in the playoffs, even if that doesn't carry over to every single game. And it seems like it only happens against the Thunder. That's open shots right there. That's a knockdown shooter when he plays the Thunder especially. And so these are the things you have to consider. And if Najee's playing or not, let's say he's not playing, that's one of the guys who less than a month ago really challenged the Thunder's pressure defense, really ripped those dudes to shred up top. The stuff at the nail, the stuff at the top of the key, got through that defense and finished at the rim, him and Jaden Hardy. Now Jaden Hardy is out. We know that for a fact as of now. And that was somebody who really, without any centers active then, was killing at the rim, was finishing acrobatic lays at the rim. Now, Hartenstein changes some of that. And so now that you add Hartenstein to the mix, Caruso's available, so he'll, bulk up that perimeter defense. It is a different challenge than this Mavs team played a month ago. Now, I know Luka is Luka. Like, this is a sizable threat, somebody you have to worry about getting advantages in the way that maybe Kyrie leading the offense could do so much, but only could do so much less than a month ago. So while I think Luka adds so much to the offense, Hartenstein, this Mavs team hasn't seen Hartenstein. I know you mentioned in the first segment, like you're almost swapping, Chet. But I just think back to how competitive the team was without Hartenstein or without any big for that matter. And I like to think that, some of the playmaking he's added. I mean, if this isn't clear by now, like he's the best playmaker on this team right now as it stands. Which you can argue is problematic, whatever, but it's just the truth of the matter, which it's made, it's helped their offense. We had questions at the start of the year about their offense, but they're up to top 10 in the league in offensive rating. They're 8th right now, I believe. And a lot of that is what he adds to the action. So it's just, there are different wrinkles than the Mavs had to deal with a month ago. And the guys that did kill that Thunder team a month ago, some of them are questionable and some of them are out.
Yeah, and then the Thunder had to make kind of a heroic comeback in that game a little bit against the Mavericks earlier this year. Obviously, you would imagine that this game has a bit more juice to it where you don't have those lulls for either team, really. I expect this to be a very competitive game. I would lean, it'll be inside of that 4.5 margin according to FanDuel. But I think a lot swings on the Mavericks injury report. With two guys in Najee Marshall and PJ Washington questionable with an illness, typically you see guys battle through like just as simple, I won't say simple, but just an illness. Guys play more often than not, and perhaps this is just league paperwork because you have to report every little thing in order to not get fined, as we all know from Mark laying out the rules every time he asks about an injury this year. But if those guys can't play, this is a totally different game. If those guys can play, then it changes the complexity of the game as well. So we kind of have to wait and see what this looks like for each team. But Joel, what have you seen from PJ Washington? Why? Why does he have such great games against Oklahoma City?
I think he's the right player for the team. I think when Luka plays, he's like one of the perfect archetypes to have around Luka. Same with Derek Lively. Like I said earlier, he attacks closeouts well, which this team, Mark was talking about this today, some of, the cost of them playing so high up on the ball. I mean, they're willing to do it. They're confident in it because these guys are such great individual defenders. I mean, you put these guys on any team, they're probably top 2 perimeter defenders on, whatever team other than the Thunder. But on this team, Caruso said today that J-Dub is probably the 4th best defender. I mean, he had his own rankings in his head. He's probably the 4th best perimeter defender, which says a lot because he's been great and he's among the league leaders in steals. And so that's the kind of pressure that you're betting on. And PJ is one of those guys who he attacks those well enough to put a defense in rotation. He has, I mean, if he's the 3rd or 4th decision maker on the floor, that's a pretty good offense. He's been more efficient against the Thunder than he has been against most teams. And then the size, I know size doesn't always translate to like the things you should be able to do with size, but as a secondary rebounder, like he killed the Thunder on the glass the last time they played. I know they didn't have any bigs, but he killed the Thunder on the glass in a way that I don't know that the Thunder does that stuff by committee. I don't know if they have an individual outside of their bigs who's really snagging the way PJ was and has at times when they play each other.
Yeah, I think that PJ is the perfect man for the job, like you said, for a few reasons. One, we know what playing with confidence does for players, and he clearly is just playing with a ton of confidence. Like if you go back and watch that November game, he took 3 open shots. Like the rest of it was just him making things happen with the dribble, making things happen, attacking toward the rim aggressively, and then making contested jumpers. And that all kind of stems from confidence, but also stems from, I think that people kind of throw their hands up a little bit and just say, why don't the Thunder go guard him? In the playoff series, it was true that like some of the design was to leave PJ Washington open in the corner and trust the data points. Tuesday specifically, that Tuesday night game, in November, they only let up 3 open looks. I think that part of the problem is you don't have a traditional power forward of like J-Dub is so good at defending Kyrie that takes the only guy with size, away from PJ Washington. And so of those contested looks that PJ Washington was able to convert on, 3 of them were just going past Aaron Wiggins in the post. And none of us think that Wiggins is a bad defender, but he can't do anything about how tall he is. So I just think that helps PJ as well. But the Mavericks have kind of ran it back, but they've also made 2, I think, or really 3 key additions: Najee Marshall, Quentin Grimes, and Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson, people were really concerned that he was washed, Joel. Is Klay Thompson washed?
No, he's not washed. He's not washed. He's certainly like dialed a notch back in who he is. I mean, you're not he's obviously not the stopper he was, which I don't even think is people's concern anymore because I'm not sure. I think the Mavericks would like that as like an add-on to what he already brings. But I think who he has to be now, who they brought on, was a guy who complements Kyrie, complements Luka, gives them a shooter, like a real consistent shooter, because I think the problem with PJ in the playoffs was he killed the Thunder, but you look at the other series and he wasn't as efficient on a game-to-game basis. And so you want somebody who's known for that. And I won't say Klay's washed. I don't think that's true at all, but he is down to, I think, 36, almost 37%, which is above average, but it's not who he's been his career, and it's on lower volume, which is going to happen because he's on the team with Luka, he's on the team with Kyrie. He's no longer, I mean, Steph was the system in Golden State, but Klay was like system B. Like he was almost as much the system as Steph was, and he's no longer the system. Like he's much closer to just being another 3-and-D than he is to be in the system. And so that's going to factor into his numbers. I don't know that he's washed, but he's definitely not like the hitter he was. And so it's just something to monitor because that could easily change by the playoffs. I mean, he only has so many games under his belt with these dudes, but I think the thing to monitor is whether the efficiency changes. I mean, as far as his role and who he has to be, that's kind of remained the same even through the rest of the year. Like he is who he has to be, or he's gonna be who he has to be for this Mavs team. But Wash is crazy. I mean, that's a tough standard to hold him to, but I don't know if Wash is the right word.
Yeah, that's why I think that it was kind of silly this summer whenever people were calling Klay Thompson washed, because with players changing, their expectations also have to change. And I think that if you take away his resume and the years you can never go back to, those were the days of our lives, Joel, but we can't ever go back. And you look at what he is right now today and what the Mavericks signed him to be in the year of our Lord 2024, like he's doing exactly what they wanted. Yes, he's not the Klay Thompson that you saw battle LeBron, but he is the Klay Thompson that is a perfect fit for this Mavericks team and all that they can do to really maximize him on both ends. Like, yes, if he was still on the Warriors and he was one of their go-to defenders, he would look much worse. But on the Mavericks, they have the defense to surround him with guys where you can maximize what strengths he does have left on that end. Clearly a step back from where he used to be, but not entirely a turnstile by any means. And then offensively, sure, he can't just go running around screens a billion times in a row, but he gets way more open opportunities with the gravity of Kyrie and Luka to the rim than he would otherwise, and he capitalizes on those as well. So I just think that this is the perfect fit and the perfect setting for what is now Klay Thompson. So he is meeting expectations, and anytime that you can do that, you're not washed. You become washed whenever you can no longer meet an expectation set for you. And Joel, you're far away from being washed. But coming up, let's talk NBA Cup. But first, I want to say right now, but I got friends over at Mint Mobile with big wireless providers, Joel. What you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were going to pay magically skyrockets. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about these gotcha moments ever again. Mint Mobile, when they say $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. So say goodbye to your overpriced wireless plan, the jaw-dropping monthly bill, and the unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with a premium wireless plan starting at $15 a month. All plans come with a high-speed data and unlimited talk and text plan for you, delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone number with any Mint Mobile plan and bring along your cell phone contacts so you make sure to keep those and ditch the overpriced wireless plans with Mint Mobile's deal that gets you 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. To get this, new subscribers and new customers can offer you the 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month. Go to mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. Go there right now and cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. $45 a month paid upfront required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on the first 3-month plan only. Its speeds do lower whenever you get to 40 gigabytes on the unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. We're back on the Lockdown Thunder podcast on the Lockdown Podcast Network. Your teams every day. Joel Lorenzi, Oklahoman beat writer at JX Lorenzi, TikToker, Blue Skyer. I guess we could say Skeeter, but he does that on the weekends. Joel, the NBA Cup, is it working?
As far as the marketability and everything, what are we talking here?
Whenever you heard that the NBA Cup was going to come into play, I imagine that you had a thought of why. Like, why was the league doing this? And the why is that happening?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's working, but I'm also not sure. I mean, it's hard to say because our sample is 2 seasons now. Like I I mean, maybe I'm in the minority here. I like to think that injuries aside, I mean, they got to turn injuries off. But injuries aside, I think the start of the season has been one of the more fun starts I can remember in recent years. Like, I think the basketball has been high level. It's been fun. You've seen a lot. Games are good every night. I sound like the real niche, cool NBA Twitter right now because it's like that's not a hot take at all anymore. But so I don't know how much the cup had to do with that. Like I think that's just been kind of the way the season's trending, the star power in the league, the way teams are set up, the way basketball is played now. I don't know how much the cup can actually like take responsibility for that, but I do think like there are people anticipating this Vegas thing, and I think this week in particular helps build that anticipation because it's almost like sort of like a bye week, like not really a bye week, but sort of like a bye week while teams, kind of await their games, and everything is really centered around Vegas in this week and stuff. So I think I can for sure say that it feels like people will watch Vegas, and it feels like especially these games, these qualifying games will matter. So if the NBA wanted to move the needle a tad, like I think it's done that. I don't think it's it's not. I don't even know. I don't watch other sports like that, like beyond even like maybe football, to know if there's like something comparable to this that's been installed in seasons. So I don't know what their target was, like what their inspiration was, but like it's moved the needle some. Would you say, right?
Yeah, I think that the bottom line is it certainly hasn't hurt. And at that point, if it's not hurting anything, then even if you only have helped yourself by 1%, it's still a 1% that you wouldn't have captured otherwise. Because I think that those niche hipster NBA Twitter people, they would have watched these games regardless of court color. And I think if you're upset about the NBA Cup, you're just a pretty miserable person probably. Because like, why would this make you mad? They've done it perfectly where all of these games count toward the regular season standings, just like every other game in the history of the NBA has in the regular season. And it just so happens that there's also a layer of, a tournament style bracket that can unfold to where you get an additional game against Dallas. I, for one, am glad the Thunder have another game against Dallas they otherwise wouldn't have played. I think that's going to be fun basketball. So like it breeds that as well that I think is working. Of like, otherwise, the Thunder would not be playing the Mavericks again. If it weren't for this tournament, and whoever they play between the Warriors and Rockets, they wouldn't be playing them again. And there's a chance that they play an 83rd game this year. So like, I just think that all that stuff is fun, and if it's helping even some little kid out there at Eisenhower Middle School get into basketball, well, that's awesome. Like that's great. I mean, if that's what you're into, so it hasn't hurt anything. Therefore, I think it has to be helping.
Is Eisenhower Middle School going to be a sponsor? Is that going to sponsor the pod?
No, the Vikings.
Is that where you went?
Right. What's up?
Is that where you went?
Yeah, Eisenhower Middle School, home of the Vikings, baby. We were awesome. Frankly, I was on the B team basketball squad. We went and beat Tomlinson.
B team in middle school. Jesus, bro.
Listen.
What were your strengths then in middle school on the B team?
I've told you this 1,000 times. I drew the game-winning charge against Tomlinson Middle School. I was just an amazing post player. Yeah, I mean, it was a sight to behold. It was a 4 p.m. tip at Tomlinson Middle School. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, this was Eisenhower Middle School. I don't know how we got into this, but they're not going to sponsor the pod. They're doing all right.
You were talking about how you hope the cup just inspires every student at Eisenhower, and just
listen, LPS, the students there can certainly use inspiration. They have little and lot to strive for. Trust me, I'm from there. So hopefully this does inspire them a little bit with the NBA Cup. But speaking of, I'll be in Lawton watching some basketball this weekend, calling some games. But Joel, the NBA Cup's working. These games are more fun. I got to ask you the same question that you asked Mark today. Are you a Vegas guy?
I think it depends.
No, don't give me that.
Dude, give me a break. Look, if you're there for like a week,
Joel, I've never seen a bigger Vegas guy than you.
Really, you haven't seen a lot of people then. Not a lot of people.
I've seen enough.
No, look, this is the thing. I'm not a gambling guy, first of all. So that's like one.
So
That's
he
the
says.
allure of Vegas. So I say yes. That's
You
the
are a
allure of
club fan.
Vegas. I'm more of a Vegas guy than Mark. I can admit that.
Okay. Well, then what does that mean? What?
Well, the scale of
That's a low
Vegas
bar
and
to clear.
yeah, exactly. The scale of Vegas enjoyers is like Mark down here and like Kid Rock like up here or something like that. Like there's
That's
levels.
like Einstein saying he passed algebra 2. Like, okay, yeah, congratulations. I'd hope.
All right, brother. Look, okay. If you're there for a week, I'm not a fan of Vegas. Like if you're there for an extended period, which we if the Thunder make it to this 83rd game, we would be there for close to a week, which is then like Vegas gets to be dreadful. But if you're there for 2 quick days in and out, you get the full lure of Vegas. It doesn't get
You'd be
old
in and out
because
of something.
Vegas does get old. I'll tell you that. Vegas gets old and it gets old fast. And so you got to get your quick hit in, do what it do in Vegas and get out. You can't sit there and when you're there for more than 2 days, then you start to think about your decisions. And you're like, why am I
Your
here?
debauchery, your degeneracy. This would have been a great time for a Hims ad. But Joel, thank you so much. Oh, well, we didn't have Skims today, but I am wearing Skims right now. TMI. Joel, thank you so much for joining today's show. Let them know where they can find your stuff.
Blue Sky, baby, and Twitter and TikTok. I guess I'm not on there as much as I should be, but TikTok loading. Where else? The Oklahoman, of course, oklahoman.com. For those of you who still read, I know reading is like a lost art these days, but for those who want to read, oklahoman.com. That's where the bars are, and that's apparently what I'm known for. So go check me out there.
Yeah, you are known for the bars in more ways than one. Joel, I appreciate you joining the pod today. As you said in your words, you run Blue Sky. It's your app, so go follow him on Blue Sky to make that statement still true.
Yes,
Otherwise,
follow the one person on this pod who's in the NBA starter pack on Blue Sky.
I mean, it helps. I mean, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know, huh, Joel? Until next time, be good and be good to one another.